That's general gist. Is I don't think we're well connected at all. And I'm asking CEOs and talking to CEOs and boards every day. And I think what we've got to do as an industry is not listen to the public speakers. I've been to public speakers before who talk about how wonderful the job they do and how wonderful they are. They get their name in the paper and they write wonderful articles. I've listened to those speakers. I've already won the job to replace them. So we're in a period where if we still stick our head in the sand and think, as an industry we're doing well, then you're all going to be out of a job within 5 years. We're not doing well. There are pockets of brilliant CIOs. There's 3 or 4 CIOs in Melbourne who I consider 3 good CIOs. And I don't consider some of the banks in that list. But most of the CIOs are not doing the CIO job, and whether you think you deserve a seat at the table, it doesn't really matter. You don't have it.
So what are they not doing?
What are they not doing?
Yeah, what are they not doing?
You know, about 80% of the CIOs I see are still stuck in the technology control mode. You know, if you still think, and a lot of these younger CIOs are all talking about, they've not lost control, they're giving up control. And I think that's right. I think we're in a period of anarchy. And if you still think your job is to control and protect the organisation, and only last week I heard a CIO tell me, my job is to protect the organisation from themselves. That person is no longer in their job 4 days later. Because it's no longer your role. Your role is to protect what's important and allow anarchy everywhere else, because this world is working too fast. And I think we've got a history legacy. And I look back at some of the big CIO, when I did the global BHP CIO job, you know, my budget was $1.5 billion, something like that. I didn't particularly do that job very well. And it's only now that I've been outside looking back in that I can actually see what we're doing wrong as a community. And one of the things I'm really passionate about, and any time I do public speaking, I can't help but finish on this point, is as a community, we need to manage ourselves better. And there are outliers that are doing great jobs like Anthony and Ash and John and these sort of guys who are doing great jobs and have really good connections, Morgan. But on a whole, we're not doing it.
And you mentioned your job, so you would do your job differently if you had that job again, PhD CIO. How would you do it?
Well, I grew up through the control era and I was really good at that. But, you know, I read an article last week, I was talking to someone about it, which was collaborate with generosity, and I wish I'd read who wrote it, but the article was really good. And, you know, when you're talking about Ash, talks about his relationship with the CMO, he talks about a partnership with the CMO. There's just an open door collaboration with the CMO. Now, if he didn't do that, they would do something else, wouldn't they? They would have the conversation without him. And I think that's the real thing we've got to change. And, you know, I'm really quite concerned. You know, you look at the jobs, they're lower authority, lower autonomy, lower reporting lines, and there are some stars still in the CIO community, but they're very in the minority.
Look, I think we'd all do our jobs differently. I don't think that's anyone. I think every CEO, CFO, there's a couple of people in large projects that will definitely do some things differently. You know, that's the great thing about hindsight. The question was, do we think we should be at the table? My answer hasn't changed. Yes, we should. For me, it's actually a criteria. It's a showstopper. I've left a job because I wasn't at the table. I couldn't get there, so okay, I'll move on. I'll do something differently, because banging your head against a wall is the definition of insanity. So, and doing that, I agree, you need to collaborate. And as I said, not just marketing. I think that's the buzzword at the moment. I think digital is a bit of a buzzword as well. We should be collaborating and be good, effective business leaders. That's where our skills and strengths are, and that we should be at the table as those leaders. So I still think we should be there, whether we are or not, you know, and we get pushed aside, you know, and that's what happens. You know, you get pushed aside. As a woman, we get pushed aside. You've got to fight your way there and cling on and move forward. But we should be fighting to show them what they're missing out on.
Kim, thanks. You've made some good points. I just thought I'd pick up on a couple of those. You know, I think the real test ultimately is if the organisation sees the CIO, or whatever role we want to refer to it as, helping them and driving disruption within the services or products that they take to market. And if that's the case, a good way to kind of do that, I suppose from my experience, is to try and disrupt, to begin with. If you can disrupt the way that you currently operate, disrupt yourself, change the way that the IT function, and I use that word loosely, operates, then you sort of start sending some signals out to the organisation that things are going to work in a different way. If you can then tie yourself to something that's absolutely going to impact your customers or clients or whatever you want to call it, and partner with those people in the organisation organisation to really, you know, change the way that they impact the services that they take to market. I think you then sort of earn that right to sit at whatever table exists. And I think it's, you know, I mean, I look at, you know, you take a business like KPMG, obviously very conservative business, has services that have been operating as they currently stand for decades. Very successful, clearly, but those advisory audit style services are being disrupted. That's happening in the industry. We've got people who are incredibly bright, incredibly well qualified, but I think there's a recognition that adding technology and disruptive technology to that mix is going to change and impact our clients. Now, if I can, I'm not saying I am doing that, but if I can do that, then that's the seat at the table that I think is most important. So, I don't know, as I said, I think there's disruption comes from within. If you can disrupt yourself and change paradigms around the way you deliver IT services, what's important, where you invest, you know, look at losing control. I like that concept, Ken, absolutely. You know, not actually be precious about services, devices, things that people are doing, and look at it through a commercial lens and say, how does that align to what our customers' agenda? If we can do that, I think whatever that role is going to be successful.